Prerna, and I've been an English teacher for about 6 years. And what if I asked you, what do you remember from your English literature classes in school? Some of you might remember mugging up very long stories for question and answers in an exam. Some of you might also remember mugging up poetry, really long stanzas for elocution competitions. Some of you who studied English literature in higher classes might also remember mugging up analysis of boring plays and poetry and God knows how many stories for your summative exams. But hold on, wait. What if I told you that there's so much more to literature than mugging up question and answers for an exam? Wait. So you're telling me that English literature is not me mugging up dumb stories? Well, not so much according to Chambers and Gregory, who have this to say, okay? And I'm going to quote here. The purpose of literature is to get students to engage, albeit vicariously in, modes of living, feeling, and judging that they may otherwise never learn about. Let me simplify that by asking you another question. What do you think is the purpose of sharing stories, poems, or any other form of expression? Is it not to maybe discuss how lives are lived? How different people see and perceive the world? Let's take, for example, you wanted to find out what one individual soldier felt during the World Wars. Why don't you pick up a book by Ernest Hemingway, or poetry by Wilfred Owen or Siegfried Sassoon, and you might find out. What this means is that we cannot reduce literature into just simple comprehension question and answers. Literature is so much more than that. Literature exists in a field of play. What that means is that I cannot assign one singular right meaning to any text. Let's look at it from this perspective. Let's say you and your friend go and watch a movie in a theater. Now, you might really despise that movie and think it's an absolute bore, whereas your friend might love it and consider it to be a cinematographic marvel. But hey, didn't you both watch the same movie? Most of our classrooms today provide students with a very reductionist understanding of a text, and obviously critical thinking, creative thinking is stunted when children approach a piece of literature only to answer very surface level comprehension questions such as, and I'll just quote here, how did Melon become the ruler? Why did the Egyptians resent Carter's investigations? Now, these are taken from a CBSE examination paper for English communicative course. And honestly speaking, there are other curriculums like IB and IGCSE which do have literary analysis, but then again, they have students answer questions such as how does Auden strikingly convey grief in this poem? And this is taken from, if I'm not mistaken, their 2023 literature paper. And these kinds of questions again will force a child to simply, mug up some analysis and regurgitate that in an examination question, right? So the problem that is arising is the fact that students are trained to think that, and again I'll quote here, there is content that can be easily summarized into a single main idea, point, gist, or theme, and this is by Pervez. There are other group of theorists, that is Sternberg and Lee, and they've argued way back in 2002 that, and I'll just quote, even while the content of the text might be radical, the assumption informing its teaching is traditional. The text embodies some content that students need and that teacher will pass on to them. So the teacher is often considered to be the fountain of knowledge, and students then become these passive sponges who are simply absorbing all of the information. A lot of times children don't really learn that texts are not produced in a vacuum. There are contexts such as socio-cultural, geopolitical, historical that have contributed in the development of these texts. And I'll put a very interesting quote here. This was by Willingham in 2023, and he suggested that, and I'm quoting, while helping children decode fluently is an essential goal of reading instruction, fluent decoding isn't the end point of reading. Students must also understand what they read. So more often than not, the study of literature becomes a means to an end, maybe to enhance comprehension skills, to enhance vocabulary, but we're not really looking at what is the purpose of literature over here. And this is also reflected in assessment practices in majority of the schools, wherein Assessments basically test how much can I memorize. So if your memory is better than mine, obviously you're going to get a higher score than me, and we're not necessarily looking at decoding literary texts. We're not really looking at truly engaging with these literary texts. And what I want to do over here is I'm going to talk to you about this very interesting point of view and opinion that I came across a book that I was reading when I was researching for this vlog, and it's called Teaching and Learning English Literature. It was published by Sage, I think in 2006, and the authors here are Chambers and Gregory. And they have a very interesting idea on what is it that students want to take away from, literature. And I'll just quote what they have to say. So this is what they say. The kinds of connections that many students want to make to the literature they study can be called, for lack of a better term, existential. That is, connections between literature on the one hand and the basic enduring terms and conditions of human existence on the other. Now that's really, really profound. And this obviously means that literature cannot be put to such reductionist methods as it is today. So how do we ensure that this takes place in the literature classrooms? In my opinion, literature should lead to some kind of a dispositional change. Now, students must be provided with multiple opportunities to engage with the text, to develop their own interpretations and their own understandings and modes of thinking about this text. Furthermore, our classrooms also need to be safe and inviting spaces wherein children are not afraid to have debates and to develop divergent points of views which may be very different from the teachers. We also need to understand that literature as a discipline is steeped in what is called the subjective universal. Hold on, wait, complicated vocabulary? Let me simplify that. In simple words, what that means is that although what you're reading is the writer's own personal experiences, it's their account, their understanding of something, but we as an audience can still relate to it. Let me further break it down with an example. I am an English teacher. I have never fought in the wars, I have never lived through one, but when I read and when I teach, say, a novel by Ernest Hemingway or poems by Wilfred Owen about the war, I can still understand what they're going through. I can, to some level, empathize and even picturize what they're talking about. I hope that this vlog has gotten you to think a little bit more about what literature classrooms should look like. If you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments below. If you've liked this video, if you've learned something new, please share it, please like, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Do stay tuned for the next vlog, which will discuss more practical strategies on how can we better our literature classrooms.